What's up everybody, my name is Carl, and it is officially horror season on my channel. And to celebrate this, today I'm going to talk to you about what the Lizard Man is. Lizard Men, or the Lizard Man, is a reptilian humanoid cryptozoological creature that has a notorious first sighting in Lee County in South Carolina, but also is a cryptid with various multiple theories, shrouding it deeper in mystery. The Lizard Man is depicted as a 7-foot tall bipedal being with qualities of that similar to other reptiles and even dinosaurs. It allegedly has, in most cases, green scaly skin, a half humanoid, half snake-like face and head, 3-toed feet, and hands that have long sharp claws and large glowing red eyes. The Lizard Man is said to have circular pads on each of its fingers, which allows it to cling to trees and walls, much like a gecko can. As well as this, the reptilian cryptid is said to be extremely fast and incredibly powerful, being more than capable of ripping open cars with its bare hands. The first documented account of the Lizard Man is the infamous sighting on June 29th, 1988, in Scape-Ore Swamp in South Carolina, reported by a 16-17-year-old named Christopher Davies. He claimed he was chased by the creature after stopping to change a flat tyre. Several reports from the summer of 1988 documented similar encounters, with many mentioning unusual scratches and bite marks on cars parked near the swamp. The local sheriff department assumed it was some type of bear until biologists were unable to classify a plaster cast of a 3-toed, 14-inch footprint taken from the area. The last known sighting of the Lizard Man was back in 2015, where 2 individuals released recorded evidence of their Lizard Man encounters. A woman had photographed a single image of the Lizard Man after she was leaving church. After the photo went viral, an anonymous hunter allegedly released a 25-second clip taken prior to the photograph, but shot close by to the area. It depicts a dark figure moving through the trees within the distance. Like many of the cryptids that I've covered on this channel, the Lizard Man definitely has a lot of theories behind it, and certainly some of the most interesting. One theory is that the Lizard Man, or Lizard Men, are continued biological evolutions of prehistoric reptilians, or in some cases, even dinosaurs. This theory comes from Dale Russell, a curator of vertebrate fossils at the National Museum of Canada in Ottawa. He stated back in 1982 that a possible evolutionary path of a particular dinosaur, the Troodon, had it not faced extinction, could have evolved into a dinosauroid, an intelligent being with a similar body plan to humans. Another theory is that the Lizard Man is not from Earth and is instead extraterrestrial. Potentially this cryptid could be alien and has come to Earth for various reasons, such as the observation of other life forms, or perhaps something far more sinister. Now it's story time, and this will be on the first official encounter of the Lizard Man back in 1988 in Lee County in South Carolina by Scape-Ore Swamp, cited by Chris Davies. This story comes courtesy of WeirdDarkness.com and is written by Scott Donnelly. So without further ado, turn out the lights, sit back, and don't get scared. The Lizard Man of Scape-Ore Swamp. Newsreel. The following story is based on events that occurred on the edge of Scape-Ore Swamp in Lee County, South Carolina in 1988. Some of the names and details have been altered. It was 10 PM and Chris Davies was on his way home from his job, a summer gig he picked up to help pay for the expenses of his new car. At 17 years old, he considered himself lucky to have such a newer car when all of his friends were driving around Lee County in old junkers. He loved the lining of the seats, the tight rubbery feel of the steering wheel, and of course, the new car smell. Up ahead, he noticed his headlights bounced off of something, reflecting 2 glowing orange orbs back at him. He squinted, but couldn't make it out. As he got closer, the placement of the orange circles seemed to separate the length of the road. He slowly teased the brakes, eventually coming to a stop. There was a roadblock, 2 orange reflectors on either side of a wooden post. There was an additional sign hanging from the striped wooden obstruction in the road. It read, "Road closed due to flooding." Chris remembered seeing another road back about a mile or so. He turned his car around and retraced the dark, empty country road until he spotted the turnoff. He knew of the road, the detour, only from his father telling him about it. It was a narrow, nameless dirt road that cut through scape or swamp. His father used it when he and his friends would go fishing, but Chris had never actually been on it. Until now, it was the only way around the flooded way he would normally go home. Chris flipped his blinker on, which ticked extra loud, and turned onto the dirt road. It felt like he was immediately in another world. The open fields that lined the main road were gone, replaced by thick woods and mangroves on either side. The moonlight, which struggled to pierce the canopy, sparkled off the swamp water in random spots, only giving Chris the confirmation that he was now surrounded by water. Growing up in South Carolina, he'd heard too many stories about local residents, some that he even knew personally, running into gators and poisonous snakes in the swamps. Those weren't anything he was in the mood to have a run-in with, so he kept his eyes on the road and let his headlights lead the way, and hopefully within a couple of minutes, he'd be out of the swampy region and back onto a main highway. The dirt road he violently bounced down forced him to slow his speed considerably. The amount of ditches and rocks were unbelievable, and in the back of his mind, aside from images of large gators and cottonmouths, he was worried about his car. The last thing he wanted was to damage the pop, thud. The car thrust violently forward and Chris slammed on the brakes, his front driver's side sinking downward. Chris's heart fluttered as the car came to rest. "No," Chris whispered to himself. He could hear the hiss from his tyre. All the rocks and constant bouncing on the road had blown his tyre out. He immediately exited the car to assess the damage. His driver's side tyre was flat, sitting in one of the many muddy divots in the road. He looked ahead to where his headlights shined, but the light eventually ended, leaving nothing but a dark void ahead of it. That's when Chris started feeling nervous. The sounds of the swamp were eerie. The bugs all sang a gloomy tune. Frogs croaked near and far. Small splashes in the water let Chris know that he was far from being alone out there. Trying to put the chilling sounds in the back of his mind, he retrieved the spare tyre from his trunk along with a jack and started to change his tyre. A creeping feeling that something was wrong began to tickle his spine, so he worked faster, finally getting the tyre changed and releasing his car from the jack. Something sloshed behind him in the water. Chris stood up fast. It wasn't the frogs or the crickets, but now there was a low guttural growl from somewhere close. "Hello?" Chris called out, but his voice only disrupted other things nearby. There was a louder splash from behind him, as well as something quickly scampering through the reeds at his side. Then, something moved through the water, as if someone were wading through at an increasing pace. "Hello?" Chris boldly shouted, trying to frighten off whatever was closing in on him. Then, in the darkness, he saw movement. Something was in the water. It leaped out and onto the muddy banks of scape or swamp. Chris positioned himself in a defensive manner. Now he could see two red eyes reflecting off the moonlight, charging at him. Chris kicked the jack out of the way and frantically climbed back into his car, slamming the door shut just in time. The mysterious creature that emerged from the swamp threw itself against Chris's door, sending a crack through the glass. Chris screamed at the creature as it lowered its head to the window. Its eyes were blood red and its pupils were vertical, like those of reptiles. It was covered in wet, muddied scales from head to toe. In one fluid motion, the reptilian creature leaped up onto the top of Chris's car and pounded relentlessly on the roof. Chris continued to shout at the creature, but his fear was starting to take over. No longer could he hold a threatening tone. He was trembling. He wanted to scream and cry. Never had he seen anything like this before. The creature then hopped down onto the hood of the car and displayed 3 sharp claws on both of its hands. It slashed at the hood of the car, tearing 3 large scrapes into it. The creature roared and did the same thing again with its other claw. It then hunched down and stared at Chris inside the car. It snarled, dipping its eyes, and emitted a horrible hiss. Chris quickly started the car engine, which seemed to confuse the monster. He threw the gear shift into drive and slammed the gas pedal. The car took off like a shot, throwing the reptilian beast from the hood. As Chris floored it, his car jolting erratically up and down on the dirt road, he glanced into his rearview mirror and under the dreamlike shine of the moon, watched the scaly humanoid scurry back into the inky, dark swamp. And that was my take on the Lizard Man, a reptilian cryptozoological creature that has caused mayhem in South Carolina, a being that still potentially lurks out there. Do I think the Lizard Man is real? I believe that there was some form of this cryptid back in the 80s, 90s period, but I believe nowadays it no longer is around. The photo from 2015 makes me think that it's just a person in a costume. It doesn't really look all that believable. But of course, I leave it to you, the viewer, to decide. So comment down below what information you have on the Lizard Man that I haven't mentioned. Do you or someone you know have a true personal encounter to share? And what do you think? Do you think the Lizard Man is real or fake? Like and subscribe and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!